Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing a requested video of how to draft and sew a monostrap gown with an asymmetric neckline. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please hit on the subscribe button. So let's dive right into today's video. Here on my pattern paper, I have right and here I have left. So I went ahead to do this because of the dress is a monostrap and one part is a cut together and the other is a monostrap. So let's start drafting. Starting from this part, I'm going to mark my neckline, which is 3 by 3 inches. I'll just be marking out 3 by 3 inches at this point. So I'll just go ahead and use my French curve to draw out the neckline. So now after I'm done drawing that, I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2. That's 14 divided by 2, I have 7. So I'm going to mark the full length of my sleeve. That is my shoulder to my wrist point, and my shoulder to wrist point is about 22-23 inches, but I'm using 21 inches because I'm going to be adding a little band at the lower part. So from there, I'm just going to repeat my pattern and I'm going to mark ½ inch on this part. So I'm going to connect down to the lower part this way. That ½ inch that I marked on that ending point of my pattern. So after I'm done marking, I'm just going to go ahead to draw it out with my marker. The full length I marked will be serving as a guide. So what I'm going to do next is to place my tape and I'm going to get my chest line. So to get my chest line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch from the shoulder point this way and I'm going to mark. So I'm going to reconnect. So at this upper part, that is actually for the right side of the dress. So now to get your chest line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches and mine is 7 inches. So I went ahead to mark that and I'm going to divide what I have here into 2 and go in by ½ inch. Now before I continue drawing my armhole, I'm just going to go ahead to mark out my chest line this way and I'm going to draw a line at that point and then connect it down. So next step, I'll place my tape and I'm going to mark my shoulder to under bust line, which is 12. So after that, I have 3 inches from that point, which is my shoulder to under bust plus 3. I have 15 inches. So I went ahead to mark my bust line. So I made use of my half length, which is your shoulder to under bust plus 3 or your shoulder to under bust plus 2, depending. So the reason why I'm doing this is because we are attaching a band to this dress. So I went ahead to mark out all my measurements and I'm just going to go ahead to start inserting my measurement. At the bust, I'm going to mark the bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll mark it at the chest line and I'll add ½ inch. Whatever I have there, I'm just going to take it down. At the under bust, I'm going to mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, which gives me 7 plus half. I have 7.5. I'll mark. At the half length, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4 plus ½ inch. So now I'm going to connect from my under bust to my half length down to my bust and down to my chest line. So now I'm just going to mark out my armhole area. So now at that shoulder line on this part, I'm going to go ahead to notch it because of the other side of the pattern and I'm going to cut out my pattern. On the top part, I'm not going to trace out this side, I'm just going to leave it for now. So now after I'm done cutting, I'm going to flip this to the other side, which is the right part of this pattern. So on this part of this dress, we have a cut together sleeve, so that's what we are trying to draft out. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to place and mark out my neckline of 3 by 3 inches and I'm going to go ahead to use my freehand sketch to draw out my neckline. So now I'm going to place my tape and I'm going to get my shoulder to half length, which is your shoulder to under bust plus 3 inches or your shoulder shoulder to bust plus 2 inches. So after that, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to add half inch for sewing allowance. So this pattern you don't need much allowance. So from there, I'm going to go up by 2 inches at this point. I'll go ahead to mark. Now coming over to the end of this pattern, we are going to mark the wrist measurement. So you're going to take your tape and place and measure what you have. So I'm just going to use 7 inches. It is not too tight, and 7 inches divided by 2, I have 3.5, and I'll be adding extra half inch to it. So now we are going to take note of that shoulder point. So this is where the shoulder is. From the shoulder point, I'm going to place and mark my shoulder to elbow point. So from that point, I'm going to come down about 7 to 8 inches from the elbow point, connect it from the wrist down to that point, and I'll just mark it out. So from that point, I'm going to go ahead and connect it down to the 2 inches we came up by. Then at this point, another way to do that is to get your shoulder to bust point, place your bust circumference divided by 4 and add few inches to it, or you can just go ahead to use a freehand sketch. So I'm just going to connect from my elbow point down to that 2 inch that I came up by from the half length. I'm just going to trace out. So the next step I'm going to take from here is just to go ahead and I will cut out my pattern now. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please hit on the subscribe button. So I went ahead to just add few inches round the sleeve parts just in case. Now I'm going to go ahead to open up my pattern. So before I do that, I'll go back and indicate this part as right because I cut it out and I still have my left. So this is what I have right now. So now we are going to be creating the monostrap, which is going towards the left side. So if you notice, I didn't cut out this left side yet. So I'm going to do that after creating the monostrap neckline. Now to alter the neckline, I'm going to connect from this part down to the armhole of the other side, and I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler this way, and I'm going to connect and draw a line. So this is what I have after I'm done connecting, and I'll just go ahead to take this up a bit. So why I did that is so that my armhole on this side won't be too revealing. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to trace out the line with my marker. So after I'm done that, the next step I'm going to take is just to cut out my pattern. Once you're done cutting out the neckline for this part, my pattern is ready, and this is what I have. So I'm going to use this pattern also to cut my back. So to cut this side of the back, I'll place my pattern this way and I will cut it out. And when I was cutting out, I made sure at this point was equal. All you have to do is add half inch and place and cut for this part. So for the part that doesn't have the sleeve, you're just going to place it from this line. Take note of this, and you're going to add half inch in front. So when I cut it on my fabric, I'll be showing you that. For this front pattern also, I'll be slashing it to create that little twist in front of the dress also. So now the next step is we are going to create a band. So this band is about 2 inches. The width is 2 inches and the length is 15 inches. So on the dress, you notice there's a little band before the lower part of the dress. To get this is your waist circumference divided by 2. My waist circumference is 28 divided by 2. I have 14, and I went ahead to add 1 inch for zipper allowance. So 14 plus 14 will give you 28 plus that 1 inch. So when I'm cutting, I'll cut this on fold. So after this, we'll be moving to the lower part of the skirt. So here on my skirt, I have my pattern folded into 2, and I went ahead to indicate the left and the right. So for my skirt, I'll be starting with 17 inches. So if you remember, we marked our shoulder to bust plus 3, which is my half length, 15 inches, and we created a 2 inches band for it. So 15 plus 2 will be giving me 17, which is exactly at my waistline. But for some people it might not be on your waistline, it just totally depends. So I'm going to start my skirt measurement from this 17 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead to place my tape at that 17 inches, and I'm going to mark my full skirt length. So for my full skirt length, I have about 31 inches. So the full measurement of my dress is 31 inches, right? So on this point, I'm going to make a mark. So I'm going to make a mark at that 31 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line. Next step, I'm going to place my tape, and I'm going to mark 7 inches down to get my hip point. So at that point also, I'm going to draw a straight line there. I'll go ahead and extend the line, and the next step I will indicate my hip point, my skirt length point, and my waist point. So next is to start inserting my measurements. At the waist point, I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to go ahead to mark ½ inch. So right, this skirt does not have a dart on it. So on the hip part, I'm going to mark my hip circumference, which is 40 divided by 4. I'm going to mark. So because this is a ruched skirt, I'm going to add about ½ or 1 inch to it. So I'm just using ½ inch, and I'm going to go ahead to mark. And I'm going to add my ½ inch sewing allowance. So the reason why I added this half is so that my ruched effect can form very well on the skirt. Now whatever I have on that point, I'm going to minus 1 inch from it. So you can go ahead and minus 1.5. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark it at my skirt length. So the next step is to connect from my waist point down to my hip point, and then down to my actual skirt measurements. So after I'm done connecting, the next step I'm going to take right now is, while looking at the skirt, you notice that one side is higher than the other side, and because we're adding a ruched effect to it, I'm going to be adding about 10 inches to the skirt length, or you can use about 5 inches to add the ruched effect to your skirt. So the measurement I have on my skirt length is what I'll be transferring to the lower part of this pattern, and I'll just draw a straight line and connect. So this is what I have, right? So I'll go ahead to cut out this skirt pattern before I can go ahead to alter the skirt. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to open up my skirt, and if you notice, I have right and I have left. So on the right side, I'm just going to extend the length of my skirt this way. So if you notice, one part of this skirt is high into the other side. So I'm going to make a slanted line from this part down to the other side of the skirt. So I'm going to place my tape, divide what I have at the ruched part into 2, fold my tape into 2 this way, and I'm going to go ahead to mark. So right from that point, I'm going to be slanting it to the other side of the skirt. So first, I'm just going to go ahead and trace it out, and if I'm okay with what I have, I'm just going to cut this part of the skirt out. So now I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. After I'm done cutting out, I'm going to fold my skirt into 2 to cut the back. So now to cut the back part of my skirt, I'm just going to fold this into 2. So I'm going to place my ruler and trace this line to be a straight line this way. I'll draw it out to be a straight line, and in front of the skirt, I'm going to be adding my zipper allowance. So the back part of the skirt is just going to be normal. So in our next video, where we'll be sewing this skirt pattern, we'll be cutting out this part of this skirt. Please, if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button, and don't forget to leave your comment at the comment section. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for supporting my channel. See you in our next video, where we'll be sewing this particular pattern. Thanks.